Okay, I've got a 2014 Kia Soul with the 2.0 liter GDI engine, and this engine is making a lot of racket. These 2.0 liters especially are known for a lot of problems. So we're going to be removing the engine and transmission, and we're going to find out what's wrong with this and what's making the racket anyways. So this thing does run and drive. As you can hear, it is very noisy. Probably somebody knows exactly what this is. Like I said, it starts right up every time, but it's making a lot of noise. I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but we're going to get it out and we're going to tear it apart and find out. And as you accelerate, it gets even a little bit worse. Now I did take this to the car wash and wash this thing top and bottom. I really do not like working on a really dirty engine. I mean, it's going to be dirty a little bit, but not as bad as it was. Okay, first thing I like to do is chock these rear tires front and back. Where I got a 21, we're going to go ahead and get these lugs loose. Broke loose on both sides, and we're going to get the vehicle lifted. Okay, so here's where we're just going to leave this here for just a moment. Go ahead and finish getting these off. And we'll just get the wheel off the other side. And went ahead and placed jack stands right here on both sides of this subframe. And of course we'll leave those other ones back there and the jacks in place for now. So before we can do anything, we're going to get this plastic piece out of the way. We've got these 10 millimeters running along the back, 10 millimeters running along the front. And then we've got these little Phillips head plastic snaps going into the bumper here. So we're just going to go ahead and get this whole plastic piece out of the way. We'll just start with these 4 snaps up here going into the bumper. And you really have to be organized when keeping up with all of your screws and stuff as to where they go. Just take the extra time now and it'll save you time when putting everything back together. These are all 10s, by the way. Start getting some of this plastic out of the way we can see. And we got a similar plastic piece with 10 millimeters over here on the transmission side. Said any of this stuff needs to come out of the way. It's just going to limit our visibility. We're going to get on the clips that are going to be holding to the bumper. Get on this bumper next. So we've got a couple of these on each side. If they ain't been broken, there's one about to fall out over here. So that frees that up. Okay, to get to the bumper here, we got a, I think it's an 8 millimeter right here. I believe it's the only one that we need to get in order to pop this loose, but if we have any issue, we'll take out these here and peel this back. So we'll have that other one on the other side. Another 10mm up here. Got more of these clips. Got 4 of these. This is for this vent or this air box. We're going to go ahead and pop this one up just so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, we should be able to just lift up a little bit. So let me show you what tries to hang up. You got these little metal bumps and it hooks in to this, basically clips around that on each side. So you have to kind of lift it up to get over that, but it's completely loose now. Now if you have fog lights, you'll want to unhook those. Let's see. So as you go, it's a good idea to put bolts back where they came out of, just so you don't get a lot of them confused when you're putting this back together. Next thing I'm going to do is get the headlights. We've got a couple of 10s and I think a 12 over here. Go ahead and get this negative while we're at it. This little diagnostic port. We got our headlight there. 12. This is the piece the bumper slides into. We've got a couple of these 10s or Phillips. That piece will just come right off like that. It's still going to be kind of clipped in, so you got to give it a little bit of a yank. Okay, we've got, I think, one more connector. There's a wire that's clipped right here. Just push in on those. And the other side's pretty much the same, minus the little OB port connector. We're also just going to stick this back on here so it's not getting lost. And we just got the 2 10s to put back in. Okay, we're going to work on removing this radiator support next, but before we can do that, we need to get the coolant and stuff drained. Said if this coolant is good, we'll probably just reuse it, but we need to get a few things disconnected from the radiator support, and you'll want to label, you know, everything so you know where things go. Our little ambient air sensor, we're going to get that. You're going to have to pop these little clips up and out of here. So we got the horn. It clips into this box. We'll just unclip all this, get it back over here out of the way. And we got these little sensors for the airbag system. We'll just unplug it right there. We got one on this other side. You'll want to take the time to tape all the ends of your connectors up so no water can get in there, unless you're in out of the weather, and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, this one's really stubborn to remove. You got to push down right here for this fan and give that a good tug, but it is really one of the tougher ones to remove. So while I was pushing that tab down, I had to use this plastic tool to help push this off. Now it also clips right there, so you want to unclip that. We're just going to disconnect our hood cable right here, just pop that out. And then this is just really simple. Just feed that right through there, and then that's disconnected. Got a 10mm down here. These are 10s. We got several 12s. I'm gonna have to push this back to get the one back here. I know you can't see it from this angle, but we got one here in about the middle. It's right back there, kind of under the computer. Another wire clip, just push on these tabs and you can usually avoid breaking them. This is going to drain straight down. I'm just going to open this up. Okay, I've drained out about all I can. I got the valve closed back on the radiator there. Poured up about a gallon. The next thing we're going to get on is these lines. I've got another pan down there because these are going to drip. Now you'll want to mark these so you don't get them mixed up. To make these easier to remove, I'm going to take a heat gun. We just put our clamp back there so it's not dripping. This is probably going to leak as well, but we got the drain pan under there. Again, you want to take your heat gun and you should be able just to give it a twist. Got a couple of tins holding this fill spout. Would be easier to take these off with this out of the way. I'm going to try to slip this condenser up. Just pull in on that tab. Same thing on this side. That's as much as we can move it for the moment. Got a couple of 10 millimeters here, this retainer for the top of the radiator. We're going to connect this, disconnect the lower hose right here, and again we'll want to use the heat gun to get it broke loose. It might be a little bit more difficult with this one, but we'll get it eventually here. Okay, now this one actually broke loose without the heat gun. I wanted to try it first, and it did. So I'm going to go ahead to make it easier to get this whole radiator out and assembly. We're going to go ahead and remove these, and this 10 millimeters actually what holds this part onto here, but this whole thing bolts into the frame on both sides. You can see, so this is holding it all up. Now it's also being held right over here by a couple of 10 millimeters coming in through this fender right here, but we don't have a lot of weight on it. Everything's drained, so I'm going to go ahead and start taking these out so I can get this radiator back out here and get a little more slack with a condenser. So these are going to be 12s also. We still have our 10 millimeter nut holding the front brace. You see it drop down a little bit. Now I'll have to get a hand on this brace once I get these here loose. Actually forgot a bolt on the other side. Okay, we got a 10mm on each side that's going in here. Now this should be the only thing holding it. Get the one on the other side. Okay, so we just need to lift up on this condenser. We should be able to get a bungee cord. Okay, the next thing we're working on now is just getting all our wires, our clips, everything labeled, and we're going to be taking it loose from the engine here and just kind of laying everything back over this way. You see I've already got everything pretty much labeled, so we'll just start disconnecting it down here. See, all these clips, like I showed you, go from the back side. You can kind of avoid breaking those. Our oil sensor. This plug runs up to the fuel rail. Just push it down there. So on top of that, let's see, it clips in here and here. We're just kind of unclipping this stuff as we go. And it looked like a rat or something been chewing on this one. I'll have to fix that. Right here goes down to our crank sensor. This is our purge. So we got all this portion loose. Our throttle body. On to our neutral safety. Push down. Now, this one's pretty tough to remove. Okay, now this connector, you have to push on this tab right here. Push in with a pick tool. You need to push pretty hard. It's got a lock right there. Let me get you a better view. See, you got this lock, and you got to push that until you can get it to release. Just flip that up. And right here you want to unclip this. So now we can kind of pull all this back over here. See, we got that all free. Like I said, you want to label everything. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get this put back together, so you know, not that you couldn't figure it out, but you want to make sure that you can get it back together quickly. This also clips in right back here as well. Okay, so this is what we have freed up so far. Now this wire essentially runs up here to the battery and it goes down to the starter. and it connects here, and it comes up here and also connects to this alternator. We're going to get this one, so it's going to be clipped in there. Got a 12mm nut right here. It's going to be clipped in here and there. $12mm. Okay, so we got all this here loose now. And these are clipped in here and here. Okay, we're moving right along. We're going to be essentially getting the rest of these connectors over here. I already got these labeled O2 sensors, and the ones going to our cams and our coil packs, and essentially getting all of this wire, alternator, everything, and pulling it back over here. All right, we need to disconnect this right here. This just crimps our fuel lines together here. That was popped right apart, so we got that one free. It's just the gas fume return line. Now take the time to tape all of these ends up. You don't want anything getting in here. Go ahead and pop this fuel line up out of here. Got our O2 sensor connector, just squeeze down right there. Our cams here, pretty easy, just push down on that spring, give that a pull back. Cam sensors. Our coil packs, got to push back on these little locks before we can pull those off. We're going to go ahead and get the high pressure fuel pump here. Just give that a push down. Get our other coil packs. Just push those locks back. Got some clips. I'm coming in under with a flat to at least try to avoid breaking one side. Right, so we got a VVT back here we need to pull up. Our front VVT. Over here we got the alternator. Of course that clips in right there. Got these clipping into our intake. Got another one right here. Okay, this part of the harness you just have to lift up but it clips on these metal brackets. You have to lift it up right here, and then it will slide off of there. Okay. Okay, and then down here on this side, got the same thing. Got to pull up on that tab, and then it's supposed to Alright, so as you can see, we got everything loose from the engine and the transmission here. Now we're going to leave the fuel hooked up for now. I don't want that dripping everywhere. I think the next thing we're going to get on is loosening the belt tension so we can get this AC compressor out of the way, and then I can kind of move the condenser over here more out of the way. So we got to loosen the 12 right here before we can start moving this. This is a 12 millimeter. I want to get it loosened up enough where this tensioner will easily move. That's probably good enough. And going to go ahead and start taking the tension off this. This will move real easy. Just want to take it all the way down so we got plenty of slack. That's good enough. And then we're going to go ahead and loosen our bolt up here. This right up here is going to be a 14. Just need to loosen it up so we can. So the alternator will drop down right there is good enough. Right, with the belt out of the way. We've got 3 12 millimeters holding this on. Okay, we should be able to wiggle this out. I'm going to set it on a bucket, I think. Oh, I may have missed something. Hold on. I'm thinking it's just seized up on these alignment pegs a little bit. Okay, this one's actually corroded on here. I don't think I've ever seen one this bad. These alignment pegs are just seized up. Okay, I'm just going to set it down here on this bucket till I can figure out how to strap it up here. Back over here at the shifter cable, I put a marker on it with a permanent marker, so we put it back where it was. It's a 12 millimeter. Just give that a push down. And now this part of the shifter, you just kind of, it's got a couple little metal tabs. You just push those in on both sides. Kind of like some shark bites or something. You got to push those back real good, and then push up or pull up really hard. Now a pair of spreader pliers works good because you're going to think it's still stuck in there, but it's just because it's corroded and it doesn't want to move easily. So yeah, the spreader pliers underneath worked out the best. So we have this loose. Now we got these heater hoses. I'm going to come back here and get this clamp. Get this out of the way, and we're going to mark these so we don't get them mixed up. And we'll get the heat gun over here because these will be stuck on. But they'll be easier to move here than they will up at the firewall. We've got it set on about 3.5. We're going to get these heated up. Okay, I got that thing pretty hot on this side. Now I've got a pan down there because I'm sure this is going to be leaking some more. Okay, now let's heat that oven up and do the same thing. And you have got to get these pretty hot, get them to move. Alright. Okay, we're going to get this vacuum hose here loose. You'll need to use the heat gun here as well. These are all going to be really stuck. And right back here is where this O2 sensor connector clips in there. You just have to slide that up and out of there. You may need some spreader pliers. Should slide up and off of there so we can free that up. The wire clips on here, so you can free that. Well, I'm just getting ready to get the oil out of here. Had not drained this yet. If there's oil, should be some anyway. Don't see any metal. Now the oil looks really clean. Okay, while we're waiting on that to drain, we've got probably a little over 2 foot of extension here, and we've got a 19mm socket. We're going to go ahead and get on this exhaust back here. Okay, so we're back here, just where the flex pipe is, and what we're going to be doing is disconnecting, not here, but where the flex pipe is going to the exhaust manifold up there, and that's where our extension comes in, so we can come right up in here. And I have sprayed these with WD-40, but you will need a breaker bar, and depending on the amount of rust and corrosion, you will have some difficulty with these. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom one. Okay, so we got our first one. Get it down here. And that's what that looks like. So now we just get one on top. Right, and there's our upper, and we're all loosened up, so that will easily come right off of there. Now, when we got the engine, where it is, we're going to be removing the our torque converter flex plate bolts and stuff, and we'll also get out these lower bolts here, because once we get the engine out, it's going to just be a little more difficult. We'd have to lift it back up. So I'm just going to go ahead and get these out. It'll be easier. Now we're going to take out these 12s that are holding this plastic piece here on. And I've not removed one of these yet. That these haven't, at least a few of these been broken. You see it's already like, just got 4 of these 12 millimeters. We've got a few in the back. I don't really see a lot of purpose in this, but it's on all of these. Alright, so we got a 14, I believe, right here. We're just going to take our 14 and get this little dust cover off here. Get that bolt, and then this just kind of lift it from that side. You see how it's got the little hook where it just hooks in there. Alright, right here you can see we got a I believe this is 17. Let me make sure. Okay, so we got a 17 right here. We're going to have like 4 of these. I'm using just a 6-sided. And we're going to have to probably get out there and hold it on the crank. And of course we're going to have to turn the crank. Okay, so we got a 22. We got a 22 here. We're going to go clockwise. So we're just going to rotate this as we need to, and then we'll use this to kind of hold it as well. Said you'll have to hold that crank. Okay, so there's our first one. So we're just going to rotate it here, reach around here. We're going to have 3 more. Just repeat the process. Okay, so this is our last one, and we'll have the torque converter free. And we're going to go ahead and get our 14 and remove this one right here, because it's also down low to where it'll be difficult to get to, and then we'll be good. Let's go ahead and get this one out. So we just got this, and then our flex plate. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is hop over and get onto our CV axles. Now I also label all these and so I can put them back exactly where they go, just the way I like to do things. So you'll have a lot of these. You'll find that'll be different sizes and lengths or whatever, and it's just easier just to mark them where they come from, and so there's no confusion. Okay, so these CV axles are probably going to be your biggest fight if these have not been removed previously. But your first thing you're going to have to do is come in here with a punch, because it's going to be crimped right into that groove right there, so you need to knock that back out. Okay, so next thing we're going to take our 32 millimeter and go ahead and remove this. Now if you don't have an impact, of course you'd have to either punch the little center cap out on your wheel or have somebody hold the brakes, or you can also put a bar in here with some lugs to kind of hold it still. And these usually aren't too bad. So we're going to just put a little dab of this around here. Now the next thing we're going to have to determine is just how stuck this is. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. Fasten it down a little bit. And we're going to take our socket, put on here. We're going to be hitting this. Actually, I've got another socket I'm going to use. So we're just going to take our big 8-pound sledge and we're going to start hitting this, and with some pretty fast taps. And we're just going to continue to do this till we can get this moving, or at least see if it's going to move. And I'll just put something down here to catch my socket. So we're just going to continue to do this. So like I said, I haven't seen any of these Kia Souls that have been easy to remove, but I can tell I got it moving a little bit. I'm going to just back it off, and I'll just hit it some more. I don't want to, you know, once I get to about right there, I'm not going to hit this nut anymore, or I'll risk damaging the threads. Okay, so I went as far as I want to go with that nut. I'm going to spray more of this in there. See all that rust coming out of there. They don't like to grease these in the factory. At least I don't think they do. It doesn't seem like it, because it seems like they're just kind of going in dry, and then over time they just start corroding and seizing in there. But either way, if you put some grease going back, and sometimes you have to work the CV axle back and forth with some grease to get it freed up, because it you know, once you put a little grease in there, they move easily, so you can just push it out with your thumb. Okay, so I've got it pushed back here. It's probably not entirely free, but it's far enough. I know it's going to come out now. Okay, we got a couple of ways to remove the CV axle. One of the ways that I'll a lot of times do it is just take these bolts out up here. It's probably the easiest way to do it. You do risk disturbing your alignment, so it just depends on the circumstance. You know, a lot of times I'll remove it here because it's easier. If I don't want to disturb the alignment and I feel like it's not going to need one, I'll pop it loose down here. But it is a lot more difficult to pop that ball joint out because it's going to be seized up as well. Okay, we're going to get this 10mm holding the ABS sensor here. Just put your little 10mm back. Got a 12mm holding this brake line. Okay, we got a couple of 17s that are holding this whole brake caliper bracket. We're going to get these loose next. Now, as far as removing the lower ball joint, you really have to have this stuff out of your way. If you use a pickle fork, all it's going to do is tear that ball joint up and the boot and everything. Okay, we're going to get that lower one. If you can see it there, these are not just terribly tight. We're just going to completely take both these out. And it's got a little lock ring washer that goes on the end there. Okay, we just got that wired up there through those holes onto the spring. Okay, we're going to get the rotor off. I've got this is a little Phillips bit, and I'm going to take this hammer. We're going to hit this pretty hard here. Do the same thing here. And once you do that, usually you can just easily remove these. So let's get the other one here. Okay, so you can see we got a 14mm nut on this side. Now you might have to hold it on the other side, but usually it doesn't spin. Take a 14. These usually seize in here, so I'm going to try to spin it. Okay, see we got it spinning freely now, so we should be able to get it out of here. It's still stuck. Okay, I'm going to go turn the wheel so I can get access to hit this here. So I'm going to take a piece of my pipe and just lay it down in here. Alright, so we're going to start hitting this carefully, not to hit the fender, in a downward motion. And it's going to take some doing to get this. Okay, another thing we're going to do is we're going to put a screwdriver like this, and we'll just come out here and tap this in a little bit. That'll kind of help open up that gap. Another thing we can do is go inside and kind of turn the wheel sometimes after we get it moving, and just kind of turn this knuckle a little bit, and it kind of breaks that rust loose. And of course we'll continue to keep this on here. Okay, we got it moving. I think I'm going to go turn that wheel a little bit too. So you can see we didn't damage this boot any. If you use the pickle fork, you might as well go ahead and get you a replacement ball joint. Like I said, removing up here, I do this a lot of times too, and it just, you know, depends on what I feel like. But it is easier to remove these bolts and just pop this down. Go ahead and straighten this wheel back up. We should be able to get it the rest of the way through here now. It's moving pretty good. Okay, now we're ready to get this CV axle out. We're just going up here with a 3-foot standard crowbar, and you're just gonna reach up in there till you can latch it onto one of those lobes. And because this is sealed, you don't have to worry about any fluid coming out. And this is what bites that in there, that clip. Alright, and of course we just removed everything the same way over here on the passenger side. Okay, and for the passenger side, we got to come back in here behind the oil pan pretty much, and we'll either use the crowbar or we'll get the get one of our pry bars, and we're gonna just do this the same way. Okay, this one here is a little more difficult. I was having to use my little 2-foot crowbar and essentially getting it in here and kind of rocking it, and that's what I found to work. I've got it loose now. I just had it in here kind of rocking it up against that side. It just didn't want to work popping it with the end like this, but that one was in there a little bit better than the other one. Alright, so we'll just pull this out of here. And like I said, it's got the same clip, but I guess at the angle I was going at, it's a little bit tougher to get that one. So quite a bit of difference in length in the two there. The passenger one, quite a bit longer. Right, we're going to get this motor mount, this center mount. We don't have a lot of things left. I'm going to use a 17 right here. Now this bracket has a lot of 14s. Now I could have just took the bolt here, but I want that bracket out of the way. I'm going to be setting this thing around. I just don't want it to get bent or damaged. These are going to be 14s as well. Okay, we're going to be removing this part of the air box, the intake here, and we've got a 10 millimeter underneath and a couple up here. Got a 12 millimeter ground. Got a ground on this side by the engine. It's 10 millimeter. Okay, I'm getting ready to get the engine lift hooked up to it here. Just want to show you where I've got my chain routed. Just going through these lift points that you have here and here, and I'll just kind of run a strap down here for stability to kind of keep this thing level. And so I think we've got everything. We've got to get the fuel line. I wanted to kind of save that for last. We'll just pop this thing off of here, and you can note it's got that little spring. We just need to compress that. Hold it with a screwdriver. Of course, you want to probably put a rag on this in case it's got pressure, but you just need to push that back against the line there. We're going to try to unclip this collar here, make it a little easier for you to see. So that just kind of unclips. I want to try to get this pushed in. Both sides here is the idea. Okay. Okay, so you just kind of push it forward and then get these to hold it back. And it didn't. This one, I would probably put a rag on it, but this one didn't have a lot of pressure, and it will come out of there. It just has those little like shark bites. Okay, and just to give you another view of how we've got it rigged up, and I've just kind of adjusted this so it's going to hopefully even out. and if it doesn't, it'll be fine. But I've got a little bit of tension on here, and we're going to start with removing these right here, and then we'll see what it's going to do, and then we'll get on to the other side. So this is just running underneath that mount right there. We're just going to take out these two bolts out here, and the easiest way to get to them is to pop this out from the inside. See, this just goes, just pop that out. Okay, and you're going to need an impact. I got a 14 here. Really long bolt. Okay, so this side is loose, being supported. And now all we're going to do is get on, we're going to take essentially these two 17mm nuts, this 17mm bolt, and then this nut, and just take this off of here. And hopefully everything's going to be balanced out okay when we get everything loose. Now we should have everything loose, but we're going to kind of start moving it out cautiously, and we're going to also need to lower it down a little bit here, and hopefully it's going to clear this. I've got this pulled out of the way about as far as I can, but I can get it farther if need be. I'm going to lower it down just a little bit. This is actually balanced out pretty good here, all things considered. And we'll just come over here and we'll just check. And it looks like everything is clear. You can see we went ahead and lowered it down. We're in front of the subframe there, so I can come on down even more, and as I come down over here, it'll allow me to clear this and kind of come this way, because I don't have anything in the way over here like I do over here with these Freon lines. So we can come down here and double check. And then when we come back in, we'll have to come back the same way. So I'm just bringing it on down here because I got to clear the front of this frame, and I need to clear those Freon lines. Alright, so we're in the garage. We'll get it set on a pallet. And we'll need to get something and plug this off. We'll get all of our wires. We just kind of got them all rolled up here, out of the way. Okay, so I'm curious to see what's going on with this. I think I'm going to go ahead and start taking some things off. We'll get the alternator and we'll go ahead and pull this pulley. We'll get our crank pulley off, and then we'll just kind of start taking some stuff off here. We may go ahead and pop the valve cover off too. Go get this 14. Actually, it doesn't need to come all the way out, but I done got it loose. I'm going to take the tensioner. Just got to loosen this right here first. That's already all the way down, so let's go ahead and finish removing that. All right. This is 14. There are 10s. Alright, so I broke out the big gun. I don't know how much trouble this is going to give me. Alright, it wasn't wanting to come loose with that, so I wedged my pry bar in there. But it is really tight. So we've got a keyway. So you see how that works, just lines up on that keyway there, and as it goes into that part of the bore, it catches in that notch and lines it up. So we got a lot of these 12 millimeters. We're going to start taking them out. We probably want to keep track. We got some oil coming out already. Or I got a little drip pan here. These appear to be about the same length, but we're going to proceed with caution just to make sure we don't get these mixed up. So these down here are shorter. I'm probably just going to go through and label these things. You'll definitely see more about what's going on when we get in here. I'm going to take a look at this. I'm going to probably pull the oil pan off next. Okay, so I just took the time to number each and every spot on here. So if and when I put this back together, got them all numbered. The next thing we're going to do, we've got a few of these bolts coming into the top, some 10s, and we're going to have a few under here. So I'm going to go ahead and take out a few of these and see if we can start getting this to move. Got some locating pegs. Now there's one right there. There's one over here somewhere. Here we go. So you got to watch for those. Those things will seize up, and so I really would like to get in, look at this for the night. I'm thinking that I can take these up here loose maybe and get this to move, but I don't know. We may have to take the whole valve cover off, but I'm gonna go ahead and get these 10 millimeters down here, I think. So we're just gonna take the ones loose that are going right to the timing cover here for now. Don't want them all out. I don't know if I'd mention it, but this engine, this car's only got 138,000 miles on it to be making all this racket. Alright, so I got those 4 that are coming to the timing cover. Okay, we gotta get this high pressure fuel pump here. It takes a 19. We won't be able to get any slack, I don't believe, until we loosen that bottom and the bracket. We got a little 10 millimeter in here we got to get loose so this thing will free up. So this line right here has a couple of 10 millimeters holding it, so you take those and you can get to this to loosen this up. We have enough slack right there. Yeah, we don't need to take it all the way off. No, we actually do need it out of the way because it's going to hang up on the valve cover. Go ahead and get the high pressure pump. Go ahead and inspect this cam follower. Bro, I think we'll get all these coil packs out of here next. I think we'll get all these pins out of the valve cover now. Got the ones around the perimeter. Alright, so I'm just going to take my long pry bar and I'm going to start right in here, just kind of working with this. This is right close to this alignment peg. You can see it's moving a little bit on this side. So let's get on the other side. Now the alignment peg's not right here, but this is a good spot to get a hold of. Alright, so it's actually coming pretty easy. You want to stay on these tabs and not get on your front cover. I'll get back on that other side. So I guess the idea is just kind of work it back and forth because it's on those alignment pegs and it needs to kind of come off straight. This is coming off here way easier than most do. Alright, so there is that. So not sure if this is part of it or what, but it seems like there's like a lot of slack on this side. I don't know if that's normal or what, but I mean, this side is tight, but this side has a lot of slack over here on this side. Just not sure on that. Okay, so I put the crank on here, just been turning this over. I don't think that this is the source of the noise. You know, it just loosens and tightens depending on where, you know, where the crank is located. So I think this is all working properly, so the noise is going to have to be somewhere else. We're just going to have to continue tearing into it. Alright, I think we're going to start getting some things out of the way to make this easier to manage. We're going to get the intake off next and probably get the exhaust manifold. I already disconnected these lines right here. Now I drained this down some more, and I've got a plug in it too, so I don't have coolant going everywhere. We've got a 12 millimeter down here on this bracket. I think we can just remove this and it will bring the, we'll probably need to disconnect this as well for our fuel rail. I'm just removing this 10 millimeter right here instead of trying to figure this out and break that clip. Okay, as it turns out, there's like a hole right here. You got to push down with a pick tool to push this little bump in here, if you will. And it's still not real easy to push out of there. But you can see that little bump. Got to push down on that tab. I just couldn't see it up in there. And this one's got a similar tab on it, but I'm going to leave it. I just need them separated. So we got this bottom part loose. Now we just got some 12 millimeters. Got one hiding down in here. There's one over here. See, all the fuel and stuff is loose over here, so we should be able to work this out. Here's a look at your GDI fuel rail. We're going to start getting our transmission loose, these 14s. We've got them all numbered and labeled. And this usually comes apart pretty easy. So we just labeled them on both sides there. Let's go ahead and get this starter out first. Just got this supported so it's not trying to tip. I'm going to slide it onto my mover's dolly. Okay, so this is our last bolt. Usually all we have to do is rock it a little bit and it's just hung up on the pallet there a little bit. Here's a look at that. Okay, so my plan is I'm just going to rotate this thing on its back here without breaking anything, hopefully, and see what we can do. We may have to drain some more oil out first. Okay, here we got this thing flipped over, and had a little bit of oil draining out. I kind of caught it. My little pan is pouring out of here, and I just stuck the valve cover back on, so wasn't getting anything in there. And just been using this little putty knife and the mallet to kind of cut this RTV loose. And we actually finally got in here. Wasn't too bad messy. Caught a little bit of oil trying to come out, but not too bad. Okay, so we'll probably pull this pickup tube off of here next, but immediately I come in here because, you know, I'm looking for the smoking gun because something is making noise. Nothing really looks out of place, but you can take this rod and just shake it right here, and then this one here's the same way. So I'm going to pull those off. I was trying to wiggle these up here. I don't think they're really moving a whole lot. So I'm going to definitely take those off and inspect those. And you know, I know from you know, working in a machine shop for years, you know, even if it looks okay, you think you could put some bearings back in there, but unless you know the tolerance, whether it's egged or out of round, or basically if you don't know what caused this to happen, then it's just going to do the same thing again, and we don't even know what caused this. It just seems to be a problem with these engines, and I've heard that they've left shavings from the crankshaft to something with the oil circulating in the system. So I don't really know, because I've heard of people, you know, that kept regular oil changes and said this engine looks clean, the oil looks clean, so it doesn't look bad at all. So I would say that this was just, you know, faulty from factory. Let's go ahead and get this pickup too. This is a 12. Oops, the right way. Down here we got a couple of 10s. It's probably going to pour more oil out of here. Oh, it's pretty dry. I've just got a 12.10 millimeter here. Okay, so I'm not really seeing anything. Okay, so I just put that one back. I didn't see anything on that. I don't want to get anything mixed up in case somebody might want to rebuild this. I know I don't. But I'm going to rotate to the next one and just take it off and inspect it and just kind of do the same thing. Because I'm thinking that it's got wear, but it may not be noticeable without measuring it with some mics. And so these seem like awfully loose. I could be wrong, but they seem awfully loose. And in case you didn't know, they like break these off. I guess when they manufacture, they only go back together one way. See how So it's going to line up perfectly with the brake. This one here looks the same as the first. So I'm just going to put it back on here. I'm going to keep checking them, and then we'll see about checking the crank. Okay, we finally found it. You see all that scoring. The bearing has just spun in there. It's like completely just ate up. And the weird thing, this one didn't seem as loose. You see I'm just spinning the rest of this bearing here, just pieces of it. If I can even get that out of there without moving this. Push that up. But look how thin that is. Now, like I said, one would be tempted to think, well, I'll just put another bearing in there and see what it'll do, and it might work for a minute or two, but it wouldn't last. And then look at the crank right here, all this scoring on the crank. Let me get you in there a little bit. So you can see all that scoring. So if yours is making this racket, then more than likely this is what happened, is it spun a bearing in here. I'm going to go ahead and check that last one. So this is just completely demolished. So I was looking for something. If there was nothing on these rods, I was going to check the crank as well. But you know, it doesn't, the racket doesn't sound like a crank. It's more of a little bit higher pitch. I would expect it to be much louder if it was the crank bearing itself. But that don't mean that they haven't sustained some damage too. But I'm just going to stick this back on here, and we'll get to the last one. Okay, so the last one looked good. The only one in question is the third one. Now, at the very least, you would have to take the crank out and have the crank returned, and you would have to get oversized bearings. And I don't know about the rod, if that would be any good or not. I wouldn't want to attempt to use the rod, but maybe the rods are tougher. But all of them appear to be good, and this last one is fine too. So it was just the one right here that was bad. Okay, well, at least we figured out what was causing the racket. I was really trying to be optimistic and hoping it was a tensioner or something, or the chain, but you know, this is going to have to be overhauled at the very least, and I'm not going to do that. I would just get a replacement. So I'm just going to put everything back together, and we'll just follow up. All right, so here we have this engine all put back together. Now, like I said, I've decided not to replace the engine in this car, and kind of went a different route with it, and basically trying to make the best of a, you know, unfortunate situation. So the 2.0 liter engines seem to be the ones that I always hear about having these sort of bearing issues. I don't know that it's mainly them, but that is the ones that I hear about. So I hope you enjoyed the video. At least we got in here, we investigated and figured out what the issue was. So now we know. And if you are replacing the engine, hopefully this removal video can help you out with that. And if you like the content on the channel, please, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.